Welcome back. I'm Brooke Baldwin. One of Hollywood's most brash, outspoken, tough, handsome talkers is praising those same qualities in Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump.
Get off my lawn.
Clint Eastwood telling Esquire magazine the world is far too sensitive and applauding Trump's tell it like it is approach. Let me just quote a piece of this interview. He's onto something, is referring to Trump, because secretly everybody's getting tired of political correctness, kissing up. We're really in a bleep generation. What Trump is onto is he's just saying what's on his mind. He's said a lot of dumb things, so have all of them, both sides. But everybody, the press and everybody's going, oh, well, that's racist. And they're making a big hoodoo out of it. Just bleep and get over it. It's a sad time in history. Eastwood stopping short of endorsing Donald Trump, but did say he would have to choose Trump over Hillary Clinton. So with me now, the man on the other end of that interview, Michael Haney, interviewed Eastwood for Esquire. He's also the executive editor of editorial and Alice Hennigan of editorial. And Alice Hennigan is with me, a political analyst and author of The Party's Over, How I Became a Democrat. So gentlemen, welcome.
Hey, Brooke.
Hi. And I mean, colorful language for an octogenarian, a pretty feisty octogenarian at that, I suppose. But what did you make of what he was telling you about the point about being politically correct and the bleeps along the way?
I think he's a guy who's always spoken like he does. I interviewed him about 7-8 years ago, and he is, there's not much difference between the Clint on screen and the Clint you get in real life. And but I think, as I say, every sort of presidential cycle, he seems to insert himself, whether actively or someone pulls him in. Don't forget, Ronald Reagan was the one who make my day. And I think even Trump somehow, I think he must be practicing the Clint squint, this sort of tough guy affectation. But Clint is a guy who he just sort of calls it like it is. And
you mentioned the Gran Torino script, politically incorrect. He said, "Great, hand it to me," right?
Right. He one of his producers said, "You're not going to like this script." He read it, came back the next morning, dropped it on the table, says, "We're putting this into production right away."
What do you think of his points about we're being too politically correct?
First of all, kudos to Michael for the interview. It's a great piece. I am reminded of the lesson, though, that sometimes our great directors and actors ought to let their talking be done on film. I mean,
you think he went too far?
I like the character. I mean, I like the sort of real feeling of it. But, some of this stuff is a little dumb, isn't it? I mean, no, a whole generation of people are not, to use the bad word, America is not going to hell. It's not, let us not confuse a crotchety 86-year-old brilliant artist with a political analyst.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Is it fair?
I don't think he's a political analyst. I think he's simply saying his mind. And I think he's saying what a lot of people are feeling this year, which is, I don't get what's, I think that people should toughen up a little bit.
He did thrust himself, or probably was asked to, during the Romney Republican National Convention, the chair moment, we remember. Let's remind everyone.
Anyway, because it... I think attorneys are so busy, they're always taught to argue everything and always.
So remember the moment, I remember being in there and watching him. So he's talking, Clint Eastwood is talking to a chair, and this is the first time, Michael, that he's addressed this, calling it silly.
Right. Well, he actively owned it. He sort of rolled his eyes and laughed. He said, "Look, I'm standing backstage. I'm hearing all these guys talk about Romney, blah, 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 same thing. He's amazing. He's great." He says, "I got to say something different. And he says, all of a sudden it came into my mind,
Neil Diamond.
The Neil Diamond song, which is like,
as one does.
I mean, which I gave him credit for, and he says to the prop guy, "Give me a chair. I'm going to go out there and try and do something." So, he sort of laughed. He's like, some performances work, others don't, but you move on. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think he's more than comfortable with it.
We learned something in the piece on that. Honestly, I had never known that. I don't. Did anyone else know that?
No, I think it was the first.
That's why
it was
a chair.
Right.
I mean, that was a memorable moment in pop culture. Again, I'm not going to confuse it with great political oratory.
Okay.
But it's kind of interesting to know.
Okay, fair point. It is in Esquire. It is the cover piece. Michael Haney, great job. Thank you so much. 86 years old. You said he works out in the morning, half an hour on the elliptical and half an hour
of weights.
Clint
pretty much
Eastwood.
All vegetarian. So
86.
He's an inspiration if you want to.
86 years young. And Alice Hennigan, thank you so much. Come back. Thank you so much to both of you. And in 1 hour.